The Aratta dynasty, at least 27,000 years old, master builders. These guys predate the Sumerians by thousands of years, and the builders of the Gobekli Tepe temple, one of the first temples that we know of currently, these guys are incredible. And I'm going to share with you multiple connections of Sumerian cuneiform tablets that actually describe these Aratta people in detail. Now, what you're looking at here is a very interesting connection of the different creation stories throughout multiple parts of the world, different histories, different timelines. You've got the Sumerian Anunnaki creation of the first man on the left, and then you've got Prometheus and Athena creating the first man in the center there. And then you have the Egyptian depiction of the creation of man as well. Now, one thing that I find fascinating is you'll notice that there's specific head dresses that the Egyptians are wearing, and you'll see one of the Sumerians with that type of headdress, but it's not nearly as complex. And I'm not seeing anything in the Greek statues there that are over 2,000 years old, but it is interesting to look at the difference of the size and comparison, and it really does, unless this is all just National Enquirer stuff, this points to the creation of modern man. Now, who were the gods, though? Where did they come from? Well, these Sumerian texts talk about Nibiru, but I haven't been able to find out where Nibiru is. It might be from this planet, even. Yet it talks about it being a primordial city. Where the gods come from. Wow, I think a mosquito just flew in my ear. That was crazy. So, sorry about that. This is just fascinating, this image right here. So let me also share with you just another really cool website if you want to know more about the history of the Aratta people. And this is saying 20,000 BCE. Actually, I've got reports of as far back as 27,000 BCE. So it's incredible. Now, this right here is an article that gives you a few great reference points of the Aratta people, of these master builders and incredible warriors. And in a minute here, stay with me, guys, because I'm going to share with you evidence of bird people, lion people, and cone heads. Yeah, it's awesome. Now, there's been plenty of evidence already to see that there's been people before with elongated skulls, yet I'm going to share with you some Sumerian artifacts and some artifacts that predate the Sumerian stuff of these elongated skull beings. It's it's incredible. So I was about to say very incredible, but so here you go. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 different reference points in Sumerian literature alone, just here in this Wikipedia article. And I started reading through an 870-page book this morning about a this translator that has been breaking down different and deciphering different languages, and all the way to the Aratta people. So it's incredible to be able to write 800 pages of just dialect and deciphering letters and numbers and symbols and sigils, and I mean, it's fascinating. So I'm not going to read all 800 plus pages of it, yet I did get something very important out of that I want to share with you guys. Remember how we've been reading these Sumerian texts? I say we because you've been with me, that talk about, Anu being the father, and then sometimes a text will say Enki is the son of Enlil. Sometimes it'll say the brother, and then it gets into also Inanna being the daughter of Anu. Then it's the granddaughter of Anu. Sometimes she's the son of Enki. Sometimes she's the son of Enlil. She says, I'm not son, I'm sorry, the daughter. Sorry about that. So they actually, the titles father and brother, and could actually be more of a label in reference to a title as a position of power, not necessarily a bloodline position. And it could be both. There's just so many different scribes that talk about, storylines and poems and cosmic events, and then sometimes soap opera type events. So there's a lot to it. I hope you guys followed me on that. So basically what I'm getting at is, some people are so stuck in when they read these Sumerian texts and say, no, that's not true because in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Inanna is the daughter of Anu, not the granddaughter. So that you're incorrect when you made the comment about her being the daughter, not granddaughter, whatever. There's more to it than that. So to actually find the true family bloodline of these demigods, of these cosmonauts, it would be extraordinary. So where do we find it? Is it the Sumerians Kings list that goes back 240 something thousand years? It could be. All right, so let's go into, what I'd like to share with you is it's called the Black Cube Hotel. You can go to blackcubehotel.com. And this is in the cradle of civilization. This is out there by Aratta, Ukraine, which is supposed to be the capital of the, I guess you could say, I don't know. I mean, it goes so far back, yet every time you think you find the beginning or get close to it, then you find about something else that's another 20,000 years old, that's another 100,000 years old. So I'm not going to say that these guys are, by any means, the cradle of civilization. It's just neat to read about how the culture that built the Gobekli Tepe temple, now we can put a face to the writings. Now we can put a label in conjunction with those that built these incredible parts, out-of-place artifacts, that even in today's age with modern technologies, architects would have an extremely difficult time putting together these enormous blocks, how heavy they were, how accurate. And most people are taught in school that at that point in time, people were just using primitive tools like a hammer, which is a rock that's tied to, that's like wrapped to a piece of wood or something. It doesn't make sense. But, let's talk about the Black Cube Hotel. It's interesting because we've been doing a lot of podcasts here on Link Project about the Cube of Saturn, the Cult of Saturn, the Black Cube that's represented in many of these large institutions and facilities, and even the UN headquarters uses a cube-like meditation box in the meditation room. So the Cult of Saturn is just a crazy anomaly, and I think it was just an interesting synchronicity that I pulled this hotel up, and it looks like an awesome hotel. I mean, I'd definitely go check it out, and there's some really neat artifacts in there as well. So talking about being the cradle of civilization, certainly predating the Sumerians by 20,000 years, at least from modern estimates. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Now, this right here shows you the actual area, how large of an area the dynasty expanded, and it's absolutely over the area of Gobekli Tepe. It's awesome. Now I'm going to read this to you. The Sumerian legend and the Lord of Aratta establishes that Aratta had highly skilled and much sought after craftsmen. There you go. The Sumerians were spot on. So here's another thing I want to talk to you about. How come one person in the scientific community, or one side of the fence, people are like, well, the Sumerians were excellent story keepers. They kept excellent notes, very good records, very accurate, but all that stuff that talks about off-planet, that's all not true. That's just symbolic. Or, oh yeah, it talks about these amazing people, the Aratta people, but that's just legend. That's, you can't put any validation in that because there isn't enough money to fund it yet. We need to get more money to fund it before we make it mainstream. So until then, you're a conspiracy theorist and it's just folklore. I mean, that's what they do. And when I say they, I'm referring to these giant institutions that are a part of the, I don't even want to call it elite because it's not elite, but they're a part of the oligarchy system that spoon feeds people bits and pieces of truth with sweet poisons, lies, and deceit most of the time. Like, they'll tell you some truth, but then they'll throw a couple of lies out there to where it sets the whole thing off balance and out of whack. And look at this connection here from the Great Pyramid, and then you can look at the right of that, and it's called the Great Ziggurat of giraffe. Now, this is a pretty neat comparison, and Aratta is, as far as the actual specifications and how it was built and the parameters, they're not exact, but it's pretty awesome. Now, the Aratta is described as follows in Sumerian literature: fabulously wealthy place full of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and other precious materials, as well as the artisans to craft them. It is remote and difficult to reach. It is home of the goddess Inanna, who transfers her allegiance from Aratta to Uruk. It is conquered by Enmerkar of Uruk. Mentions in Sumerian literature. Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta. Enmerkar and En-Sugar Ana. Lugalbanda in the mountain cave. Lugalbanda in the Onzidbird and the Onzidbird. Now, this is a really cool point here. This is something that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because the Onzidbird is represented in the temple of Gobekli Tepe, as well as multiple Sumerian cuneiform tablets and forms of art. And it's even shown in modern films today, and movies like Flash Gordon in 1980. I mean, the Ajiji, the bird people. There's so many connections to these bird people. It's incredible. And I want to read this to you guys real quick. The Lugalbanda and the Onzidbird. Lugalbanda befriends the Onzidbird and asks it to help him find his army again. When Enmerkar's army is faced with setback, Lugalbanda volunteers to return to Uruk to ask the goddess Inanna's aid. He crosses through the mountains into the flat land, from the edge to the top of Anshan, and then to Uruk, where Inanna helps him. She advises Enmerkar to carry off Aratta's worked metal and metalsmiths and worked stone and stonemasons, and all of the molds of Aratta will be his. Then the city is described as having battlements made of green lapis lazuli and bricks made of tinstone dug out in the mountains where the cypress grows. And I'm going to share with you artifacts that look just like the description of that it just made about these. Let me find this again here. The green lapis lazuli. They've made incredible artifacts of green lapis lazuli that are ancient. Look at this guy right here. What does this look like? I mean, this to me looks like a modern depiction of of an extraterrestrial. Whether or not it is, whether or not it's just a Picasso type form of art from 20,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago. Well, I wasn't there. Now, also another thing that I wanted to share with you is this right here. This is that specific artifact that I said, I think this is that green lapis lazuli, where this looks like a swastika. It's because it represents the sun. The sun and the swastika are one and the same. There's multiple cultures throughout history that have used the swastika as a symbol of the sun, as a symbol of light. And we all know that the Nazis in World War II, they reversed it and they used it as a form of power for their agenda, not for what it originally was. Now, this right here is a really neat pamphlet that breaks down the Gobekli Tepe, and it's older than 12,000 years old. It's at least 12,000 years old. And you look at some of these artifacts that they discovered in here, like right here, you see this guy. And some people think this might be where the Garden of Eden was. It might have been a part of it, but I certainly don't think it was the Garden of Eden. But you look at these incredible sculptures and artifacts, and it's just incredible how they were able to put this together with such accuracy, such heavy weight, at the time that they did in conjunction with the stars. Now, what I need to find out, and I haven't yet, does this link up with the Pleiades star system? If it links up with the Pleiades star system, then that's just another bingo moment that you can say, yep, that dot's connected. The Pleiades have a huge part of the creation story. Whether or not it's just the stardust that came from the Pleiades stars, or whether or not there were beings that came from the Pleiades star system, that's something to be debated. Now, I feel that Nibiru comes from the Pleiades star system, whatever it is, whether it's a planet or whether it's a kingdom, whether it's an interdimensional ether, whatever it is, I think it comes from that area. Now, I don't think it's a planet that causes destruction every 3,600 years. I don't. And I've found evidence of there being asteroid destruction scenarios every 5,500 years, at least over the past 12,000 years approximately, 11,000 years. There's good evidence for that. The 3,600 year cycle of doom, I haven't been able to find the actual evidence of there being that cycle of 3,600 years. There's a huge catastrophe. Now, there very well could be. Look at this right here. This is awesome, first of all, when you see these different enormous stone carvings, statues. You'll see two different cone head type people. You'll see the bird head. You'll see the lion head. Have you heard of the Lyrians, the lion people of Moab? There's plenty of artifacts, and I'm going to share some artifacts with you here in a moment that are dating to about 40,000 years old that were discovered in caves in Germany of lion people. And people will say, well, yeah, but what if those are just like X-Men of today? What if that was just a character of Batman? Well, here's the deal. They didn't have Batman back then, and I'm going to show you other carvings of that same era that were of lions and animals that we know exist. So why would they create a lion person like that and be, when they were in the art form of mimicking what was reality, creating what was reality in sculptures. Now, could it have been a symbolic form or something like that? Yes, I get it. I don't think that's as logical when you look at the amount of evidence that presents itself with all of this incredible art, sculptures, texts, readings, writings, prophecies, scriptures, etc., that talk about these beings of the bird people, of the lion people, of the even, and there's plenty of evidence to show the cone head people, the elongated skulls that look just like these two guys in the middle, at least the one guy on the right for sure. Now, the bird people, and what I just read to you about that bird being that was with the Aratta, I'm going to share with you some. Well, okay, let's take a step back. Here's the lion being. This is estimated to be over 40,000 years old, and it's just incredible. You can see they did a very good job carving this and putting it together. And wow, that guy's packing. Hello. So you can also see how clearly arms, legs, smiling, standing upright. This makes me think of the pharaohs, not the pharaohs, but the Sphinx. Now let's go to Science News, ScienceDaily.com. Ice Age lion figurine, ancient fragment of ivory belonging to a 40,000-year-old animal figurine unearthed. This is a fragment. You can see right here. On the left, it makes up half the head of the animal figure. On the right, showing that the lion was fully three-dimensional and not a relief as long thought. So they're mimicking reality with art. And yes, I'm sure they have theater and they have other forms of artistic behaviors. There's enough script, once again, there's enough scripture in play. There's enough ancient writings and art that would point to these lion people. So let's go back for a second. Let's go back here to this picture. I really like this one because this gives you an idea of the different beings. They're all right there before you go up the steps to the temple. So, and then Look at this. These are ancient Sumerian carvings of the Ajiji, of the bird people. Then here is an ancient Mesopotamia. This thing could be over 7,000. This thing could be 9,000 years old. This could be 7,000 BC era, if not even older than that, of a being with elongated skull. Here's multiple pictures of elongated skulls. Here is the Gobekli Tepe carving, again, of the bird being, handing the seed of life, what looks like the seed of life, food, giving life to something. This is, in my opinion, what was referred to in that text that we just read a moment ago, that Sumerian text. Here's another representation of the Ajiji, the bird people. It looks like a bird being with a George Washington wig on, doesn't it? Maybe that's where they got the idea of the wigs. It was from this thing, from the Sumerians. I mean, look at that. Doesn't that look like one of those wigs that they used to wear? And then there's the pineal gland, pine cone. There's the real nice watch that's got some type of magical power in it. And, of course, the Power Pack Anunnaki lunchbox. Way cooler than any lunchbox I ever saw as a kid. Now, that somebody said they thought was those beings giving people commerce. No, I think that's like DNA or matter, or that's some kind of substance. That's like the clay that Zeus used to create his beings. That, in my opinion, is some type of medical device where they kept the DNA to manipulate mankind. Because you can see the serpent intertwining various art forms, the DNA embedded, the serpent embedded, as well as the pineal gland. They probably gave us that pineal gland. The pineal gland that we have in current form, even though it's been constantly suppressed since they gave it to us because they realized how powerful we were when they did it. And you can read about that stuff in the Gnostic texts. That's why they try and calcify the pineal gland. That's why they continue to bombard the masses with lies and deceit, and at the same time offer truths and bits and pieces of gems at the same time, so those that are willing to look and find the truth and break out of the donkey feces and get outside of the oats that have already gone through the horse, and then be able to smell fresh air and see the sun and the blue sky, and then when it's nighttime, see all the beautiful stars and constellations and galaxies and clusters. And that's what we have an opportunity to do. It's just very difficult. And being in this dualistic universe and in a time frame that's so dualistic on this planet right now, it seems as if there's about 10%, 5 to 10% of us, so maybe let's just say 7.5%, that are looking for the truth, that want to know the truth, that don't think inside of the Borg box, that are not part of the cult of Saturn, that want and have thoughts of our own and divine sources within us. Well, we're making up for like the 92.5% that is either lost or doesn't care. So in a dualistic world that's supposed to be 50-50, 7.5% is making up for an additional 42.5%, because then you'd have 50-50. It's crazy, but it's what it is. So the pineal gland, you'll find that in the Vatican courtyard. You'll find the serpent. Like if you actually go in the Vatican, one of the main rooms looks like the outline like a serpent head, and you can even see the windows are like serpent eyes. It's fascinating. And I think I'm going to close it out tonight with this, ladies and gentlemen. This is over 2,000 years old. And people have said, man, what is that? Is that like a laptop? Well, let me ask you this. If you could time travel, do you think you're going to bring back like a first or second maybe second generation, third generation IBM laptop that's maybe like, a Pentium 4 at best? I mean, it does look like a laptop. It does look like an electronic device. Hey, maybe it's one of the Panasonic Tough Books. Because, to make it through that interdimensional portal, you've got to have something that'll withstand CME, right? So maybe. I don't know. But could it just be a book? Is it a laptop? Is it an electronic? What is it? And this is supposed to be a 2,000 plus year old Greek statue. So I'll leave the links, video description box. Thank you for being here with me. Make sure to support our sponsors, getthetea.com, for the best in health supplements. Also, pick up one of your quick bivvies today. These things are awesome. They fit in the palm of your hand. They weigh a few ounces. You can take them with you just about anywhere, and they could potentially save your life if you need to stay warm. Thank you again for being here with me. Question everything. Be excellent to each other, and be the change you want to see.